Wondering how to choose books for 0 to 3-year-olds? Today, I am sharing my best tips for choosing books for newborns, babies, and toddlers. Make sure to hit that notification and subscribe button because in my next video, I will share what to avoid in choosing books for this age range, as well as 3 examples that you definitely don't want to miss. My name is Rachel from the Confused Millennial. Welcome to my channel. This video is part of a larger series about how we realistically Montessori at home. So while there will be some overlap in elements of Montessori in this, I will also be sharing the rules we're breaking. First, how to choose books for newborns. The good news here is you don't need a ton of books. Your baby really just wants you. And their eyesight is still developing. Babies can really only see black, white, and gray for the first 4 months of their life. So I want to focus on high contrast, meaning black and white books or flashcards. We love this book from Lovevery because it's probably one of the most non-toxic books out there, and you don't need to worry about them chewing through the pages. The other thing that we used personally at this stage were Lovevery's flashcards. These things are magic, let me tell you. They're made from some sort of paper that does not tear, so your baby can nibble on them, get some drool on them, they wipe clean. Yes, they will crinkle if you go ahead and mush them into a ball, but my daughter has had these for over 2 years, and as you can see, they are in very good condition. If you are nervous about not talking enough to your baby at this stage, you could always get some rhyming books. Rhyming and music have been shown to really help develop early literacy in kids and just like help their overall brain development. How to choose books for babies. In this section, I'm going to primarily focus on 4-month-olds to 1-year-olds. And the first thing you're going to want to make sure you look for is durability. So typically really thick board books or even those soft type of books, your child will start to really enjoy exploring things around them, and typically kids at this age explore through their mouth and mouthing objects, which is, I guess, another reason why we love Lovevery. Wood was sustainably harvested for their high contrast board book. For their soft books, they're organic cotton. They use soy-based inks, no flame retardants, toxic dyes, none of that stuff you have to worry about going into your baby's mouth. And they also use BPA and phthalate-free plastics. It's just like a very clean brand. Definitely probably one of the cleanest, if not the cleanest baby brand I have found. Not only are you going to want to choose board books though, you're also going to want to choose board books with slightly thicker pages. And that's because at some point during this first year, your baby will start to work on their fine motor skills and trying to turn the pages on their own. And that can be a little bit easier when the pages are a little bit thicker, like with these mini board books. Opt for books that utilize overly simple imagery. It really helps them develop their concentration, which is going to be super important in fostering independent play later on, and I will leave a link to that video in the description box below. In line with that, ideally you're choosing Montessori inspired books. So Montessori really believed in real people, places, and things, not fantasy in books. Now the nice thing about this is they end up going together, so most Montessori aligned books at this stage are going to utilize overly simple imagery. Another great option are sensory textured books. My suggestion here is try to find ones that encourage gentle touching, not ones that require yanking and pulling and all this other stuff. This book from Dr. Seuss, there were pull tabs. You can see here my daughter ended up pulling and ripping it open because she was trying to maneuver this through and she didn't realize her own force. As far as the actual content of books during this stage, I try to look for books that are going to make your life as a parent easier. Basically opting for books that can help your child identify the things they're seeing or experiencing, or that will lay a foundation for high frequency words and language you'll want them to have sooner rather than later. For instance, having the My First Science book gave my daughter a way to communicate milk, book, help. At around 1 year old, she was able to start signing, and she ended up having a speech delay where she didn't actually have words for those things for like an entire another year. Those signs were critical for us. Her knowing her body parts was another invaluable skill or tool to have for us. When she started going through that toddler phase where she started to run away from us on walks, we were able to say, "Freeze your feet," and she knew exactly what that meant. Teaching body parts is one of the most important safety skills we can give our kids early on, in my opinion. Highly recommend looking for books that help teach and identify that. How to choose books for 1 to 2-year-olds. Between 1 and 2 years old, board books are still a great option, but you may also notice that your child is able to handle more interactive activity type books, so like the ones with pull tabs and things like that, or that they may be ready for regular paper storybooks towards the end as they get closer to 2. My suggestion here is to really just follow your child. So when it comes to choosing an interactive book, if they're still really rough with their books and pulling things and yanking things off, I would take that as a sign that they're not ready for it yet. Once they can start to handle lift flap books without ripping them off, then you can start to do more and more of those. Once they're gentle enough with turning pages, they can probably start to handle just regular paper books. Montessori aligned books are still great options at this stage, focusing on real people, places, and things. But your child may start to be interested in more cartoon books too. Generally, I found before 1, they really do just like Montessori books. They like to see real people, real faces, real kids. Around 1.5, a little bit older, they may start to gravitate a bit more towards cartoon type books. Personally, I'm okay with cartoons. I never found that my daughter was confused by a cartoon version of a squirrel versus a real squirrel. I know some parents worry about that. Do whatever feels right. Follow your child. If they're gravitating towards cartoon books, I think it's fine. If they're not interested in them, I think it's fine. I think the most important thing is to have them develop a love of books and just a fun bonding experience with you. Rhyming books at this stage can be invaluable as well. They're really engaging for toddlers. They also help with early literacy and language development. And repetitive books are really helpful. So piggybacking off of the rhyming, it can be really helpful to choose books with a lot of repetition as well, like Brown Bear, Brown Bear. This way, as your child starts to talk or play with language, they can try to fill in the blanks. Now, with that said, kids at this age often like to read books 15,000 times. As long as you're opting for short books, which is another little tip for you because 1 to 2-year-old attention span can be shorter, they're gonna get repetitions. I wanna have a mix. As far as choosing the content of a book for a 1 to 2-year-old, what I said before about high frequency words still applies. From foods you guys eat in your house to body parts are still great options. During this stage 2 though, you can start to introduce cause and effect and sequencing type books. The sensitive period for toilet learning was between 12 and 18 months old. During that stage is when I would start to introduce potty training, toilet learning books. Things that really focus on showing your child the sequence of events of what's supposed to happen when going to the bathroom, as well as books that answer any questions around it. Other types of sequencing books that would make your life easier to consider adding to your home library would be bedtime routine books, finding your shoe, getting dressed for the day, laundry, all of those different types of things that you guys are already doing in your home or maybe struggling with, trying to find a book that walks your child through it so they know what to expect, which can make your life a lot easier. Try to find ones that present the information in a neutral way. We're gonna go so deep into this. First, we're going to talk about how to choose books for 2 to 3-year-olds though. So everything that I just said from the 1 to 2-year-old section still applies. Usually around 2, kids start to take an interest in paper books, more story-like books. In my experience, longer books really started to hold my daughter's attention as she neared 2 and exploded after her 2nd birthday. Personally, we started to do bi-monthly library runs at this age. What I said earlier about follow your child really applies here, and I found it really worked for us at the library or even for shopping for books online. At the library, at least our libraries, they usually have books on top of the bookcases that are facing out, or books within the stands that are facing out, so they're not all stacked. And I will literally walk around with my daughter and let her just grab whichever books she wants. Now, of course, she can't really pull them from the stacks because they're usually really tightly squished, or maybe there's a particular book I found interesting in the stack, so I'll go ahead and pull some out myself. She usually hangs out on the floor at some point reading some books, so I will throw them all out on the floor with her, and whichever ones she engages with during that time are the books we end up getting. I found that when she's involved in the book picking process, the books are so much more successful than when I have just sent my husband to pick up books for us. We also do this online. I will usually just curate like a list of books I'm interested in, or pull up a bunch of tabs of books I'm interested in, go through them with her, and whichever books she points to are the books that we end up ordering. Another little tip, because I know a lot of kids at this age, even though it's not aligned with Montessori, use screen time. We do, no judgment. If you are struggling to get your kid to engage with books, try to find books have their favorite characters from their favorite shows. Another little helpful hack with that is that you can actually limit screen time by doing this. So for instance, my daughter's absolute favorite show is Trash Truck. I went, looked it up online. They did have a book. It's like score. She literally sleeps with it. She reads it 15 times a day. We'll wake up and say, Trash Truck, she'll want to watch Trash Truck. I'll say, oh, Trash Truck's still sleeping, but we can read the book. So it's a really nice way to redirect it without a problem, and it makes my life a lot easier. You can also opt for preschool primers like ABCs and 1-2-3s and all of that type of stuff. Although I don't think it's necessary. All of the books you're reading to them at this stage are educating them. If your child is showing an interest in those things, feel free to give them to them, but don't worry about forcing those types of books onto your kid. Again, the most important thing here is developing a love of books and just having a nice bonding experience with you. Now, probably the most important part of this topic is what to look out for and avoid when choosing books for our newborns, babies, and toddlers. And for that, you're gonna have to wait for my next video, so hit that notification and subscribe button so you don't miss it. I'll be sharing questions to ask yourself when looking at books before purchasing them, as well as 3 real-life examples of Montessori-aligned books that have some major red flags in it that often get overlooked. In the meantime, make sure to check out the rest of this Montessori at Home series here, or some past book reviews I've done for babies and toddlers. If you have any questions at all, my name is Rachel from The Confused Millennial. Feel free to drop a comment below or hit me up on Instagram at The Confused Millennial.